This crime thriller opens on a rainy day, with a woman in heels and a bright red bag walking into a restaurant. She takes a seat and waits. In another scene, the French government discusses the enigmatic criminal, Anthony Zimmer. This elusive figure employs various tactics, including laundering large sums of money through methods such as fake lawsuits. He is also involved in smuggling, amassing fortunes in the process amounting to millions of euros. The narrative then shifts to a coastal location, where a man aboard a boat surveils an individual inside a beach house. Law enforcement has the place under surveillance, and the police eventually raid the house, suspecting it to be Anthony Zimmer's hideout. Ackerman, a key character, arrives at the scene. However, Zimmer has just escaped, leaving behind a chair that is still swiveling. Ackerman discovers a name, along with some peculiar numbers, which sparks further investigation into Zimmer's activities. It's revealed that Zimmer exclusively collaborates with the Mafia. Ackerman reflects on Zimmer's affinity for criminal activities, and highlights his unrecognizable appearance due to extensive plastic surgery. Despite this, Ackerman claims to understand Zimmer's weakness, indicating that he knows how to capture him. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, the woman, Chiara, continues to wait, occasionally lighting a cigarette. Subsequently, a messenger hands her a letter warning her about being followed. The letter instructs her to approach a random man, and then she discreetly burns the letter. She boards a train and approaches a man named Francois, a seemingly boring ordinary man, who is reading alone. She inquires if the seat is available and employs subtle seductive gestures, such as removing her coat, shifting her legs, and seeking his assistance to unzip her dress. Francois becomes distracted from his reading due to her advances. Eventually, she asks Francois for tea with milk. Without hesitation, Francois obliges and goes to order it, alongside a meal. Francois maintains a meticulous regimen, taking medicine for his nervous system and being highly selective about his food. His sense of paranoia prevents him from concentrating on his yogurt as he eats. During their interaction, Chiara divulges personal details about Francois, including his age, address, and literary preferences. Francois' recent experience of his wife leaving him adds to his current state of unease, and he is currently on a vacation to clear his mind. Chiara mentions that she's also on a holiday, having been ditched as well, which is why she's traveling on the train. Francois finds it difficult to fathom how someone as attractive as Chiara could be left behind by another person. In a casual gesture, she borrows Francois' jacket, initiating further conversation between them. During their discussion, Chiara candidly reveals that she chose her seat because Francois matches her preferences in a partner. Meanwhile, Ackerman meets with Driss to provide an update that the train is crowded, yet the expected man hasn't appeared. Additionally, she relays information about a deceased family found in an apartment, suggesting that not only law enforcement, but perhaps also Zimmer's pursuers are on the hunt. She introduces Perez to Driss, instructing him to inform Perez to dress inconspicuously, or poorly for a specific reason. An older man contacts Ackerman, suggesting they meet. However, Ackerman explains that she doesn't speak English. It becomes apparent that the man is a former KGB agent. As the train journey to Nice continues, Ackerman checks her appearance in the mirror before returning to find Chiara still sleeping soundly. Francois, now at his destination, attempts to wake Chiara gently to retrieve his jacket. She awakens and inquires about Francois' weekend plans. In a car, Chiara and Francois travel together to the same hotel, where Chiara registers under the name Menzoni. She brings Francois along, posing as her husband. They are assigned a lavish suite that leaves Francois awestruck, particularly due to its spectacular view. Chiara steps out and mentions that she didn't request a second bed, implying that Francois might have to sleep on the sofa. Later, Francois assists with bringing in their luggage. During this time, Chiara notices something intriguing, even slightly threatening, but she dismisses it when Francois returns, going so far as to invite him for a swim. While Chiara goes swimming, Francois joins her. He explains that he is available to translate anything that requires it. The conversation turns to Chiara's occupation, but she diverts the topic by removing her bikini top and lying on her stomach, evoking a range of emotions in Francois. Their discussion continues, touching on subjects such as Francois missing out on his usual bed and breakfast routine. Francois humorously admits he might become accustomed to the luxurious lifestyle. They enjoy the European summer, spending time in the midst of the beach conversation, indulging in a delightful dinner, and strolling leisurely. During this time, Francois becomes curious about Chiara's watch, prompting her to hand it to him. However, he declines, considering it too large. Chiara, in a playful gesture, places the watch on Francois' wrist herself. Back in the suite, an unsettling scene unfolds beneath them, as a bald man gazes upward. Chiara averts her gaze from this sight and redirects her attention toward kissing Francois. The mood shifts when Chiara ends the kiss abruptly, her behavior changing as she bids Francois goodnight, leaving him with a perplexing mix of signals. While outside Chiara's room, Francois takes his medicine. It's during this moment that he inspects the back of Chiara's watch and makes a surprising discovery, an engraving that reads, Anthony Zimmer. Later on, Ackerman arrives and questions Perez about a transcript that seems to involve surveillance of certain individuals, although their identities remain unclear. Ackerman instructs Perez to keep an eye on them and report any activity if they leave their location. The next morning, Francois is awakened by a hotel staff member who informs him that his wife, Chiara, has ordered breakfast for him. He discovers a note left by Chiara indicating she will return within an hour. Curiosity piqued, Francois enters Chiara's bedroom and starts examining the surroundings. Inside he finds her passport, revealing her true identity. He decides to put on the watch he received from her. As he contemplates what to wear, an unexpected knock sounds at the door. To his alarm, two intimidating men stand outside. The men attempt to use a card to gain entry, but Francois manages to secure the door with a chain lock, allowing him a moment to seek help. However, the intruders breach the room and begin searching. Francois cleverly hides, successfully evading their detection. Seizing an opportunity, he escapes and evades their gunfire, making his way to the fire exit stairs. Unfortunately, in the rush, he drops all his medicine. Outside the hotel, he spots the pursuers departing in a car. Thinking quickly, he hides beneath a nearby vehicle and memorizes its license plate, as well as that of another departing car. Seeking refuge, Francois heads to a police station. Wrapped in a blanket, he garners the attention of a police officer. Despite his efforts, the other officers appear skeptical, dismissing him as a seemingly delusional individual. Determined, Francois urges the police officer to contact the hotel so he can reach Chiara by phone. However, the staff say that she has already paid an hour ago and left. This turn of events leaves Francois even more perplexed. The police inquire about the nature of his relationship with Chiara, prompting him to truthfully admit that their interaction had been brief. This revelation deepens Francois' sense of bewilderment, leading him to question the enigmatic woman's motives and intentions. Francois inspects the watch once again, recollecting their conversation during the previous night's dinner. He recalls their exchange regarding his wife and Chiara's evasive response. Drawing attention to a man he observed on the train earlier, Francois suggests that this man might be tailing them. Chiara responds with laughter, playfully suggesting that Francois should consider becoming a crime writer. In response, Francois humorously remarks that he is a person in his 30s attempting to write something of substance. Chiara's encouragement prompts Francois to elaborate on the kind of woman he would feature in his books. Reluctantly, he opens up, sharing his description. Yet, as he delves into his portrayal, his words appear to mirror his emotions concerning Chiara. He indirectly conveys his feelings, intertwining them with the character description. The scene shifts back to the police station. On the bulletin board, Francois notices a wanted poster featuring a man named Anthony Zimmer. As a police officer returns, he provides Francois with spare clothing and shoes. As Francois gazes out, a familiar car passes by, catching his attention. The officer suggests that Francois see a doctor, not due to his mental state, but because he's bleeding. Meanwhile, as the narrative continues to unfold its intricate layers, the diligent police officer undertakes a thorough investigation of the hotel room. His careful scrutiny unveils the lingering presence of the Russian man, a figure who cast a shadow earlier. The discovery of a telltale bullet hole adds a sense of urgency to the unfolding mystery, hinting at the danger that transpired within those walls. Simultaneously, Francois remains ensconced within the sterile confines of the hospital room, his thoughts a labyrinth of uncertainty. The surrealism of the situation takes hold as he contemplates recent events, grappling with the startling realization that he has become an unwitting player in a high-stakes game of intrigue and danger. In the midst of his reverie, a jarring interruption shatters the stillness, the piercing ring of a phone. Francois' heart quickens as he hastens to answer the call, only to be greeted by the voice of Driss, the police officer he encountered before. In a reassurance that bridges the gap between his own perception and reality, Driss validates Francois' account of the attack. The fragments of fear and confusion that hung in the air now coalesce into a semblance of truth. With a promise of support, Driss shares his contact details, a lifeline of connection in the labyrinthine narrative that continues to unfold. Armed with this newfound assurance, Francois navigates the intricate web of his emotions and the enigma that surrounds him. In the midst of these unfolding events, Francois' mundane act of ordering his favorite yogurt becomes a thread of normalcy, a contrast to the heightened tension that envelops him. His gaze drawn to the window, his eyes lock onto a familiar sight. A car, akin to a specter from his fears, comes to a halt just outside. The pall of apprehension descends upon him once more, prompting him to dial Driss's number in a bid for safety and understanding. Yet the line remains occupied, unanswered, adding a layer of uncertainty to Francois' plight. Just then, the echoes of a gunshot slice through the air, reverberating within his consciousness. A lurking shadow materializes at the door, the embodiment of his deepest fears. The figure's ominous presence casts Francois into a frenzied rush, a desperate flight from the looming threat. As he hastily adorns himself with clothing, his movements fueled by instinct and adrenaline. Francois takes on the role of a protagonist thrust into a heart-pounding chase. The hospital hallways, usually a space of healing and solace, transform into a labyrinth of escape, an uncharted territory of uncertainty. Alone and consumed by an overwhelming sense of fear, Francois finds himself trapped in a perpetual cycle of glancing over his shoulder, his senses heightened for any sign of danger. Each time he turns, the corridor appears empty, save for the occasional passing staff member going about their duties. His footsteps echo through the hallways as he walks, the sound a constant reminder of his isolation in this eerie environment. Stepping into the claustrophobic embrace of a shaky elevator, he descends with a mixture of trepidation and urgency. The metal confines of the elevator rattle, mirroring the unease within him. As the door inches open, revealing the exterior world, a pulse of anxiety courses through him. Two figures stand outside, the same suited men who have been haunting his every move. The air grows thick with tension, and his heart races as he inches towards the edge of their notice. A breathless moment ensues as the elevator door begins to shut, threatening to sever the invisible thread connecting Francois to the lurking danger. Yet as fate teeters on a knife's edge, the suited man's gaze hones in on him, as if destiny itself conspires against his escape. But in a twist of providence, the door mercifully shields him from view, sealing off the impending threat for now. The parking area, a seemingly mundane space of vehicles and anonymity, becomes the stage for his next desperate gambit. Emerging from the confines of the elevator, he steps into the open expanse of the parking lot, his resolve to evade capture unwavering. However, the ominous hum of an approaching engine pierces the air, jolting him into action. The pursuit is relentless as the car draws nearer, and Francois' heart pounds in sync with his pounding footsteps. With a heart full of hope and desperation, he takes a leap of faith, every muscle in his body propelling him forward. To his immense relief, the pursuing car grinds to a halt. He arrives at the precipice of safety, the driver of the car behind revealed to be none other than Chiara. With urgency and gratitude, he slips into the refuge of the vehicle, and Chiara accelerates away, leaving the looming threat in the rearview mirror. In the cocoon of the car's interior, Francois' anxiety gradually subsides, replaced by a renewed sense of connection. He opens up to Chiara, confiding in her about the relentless pursuit that has turned his life into a maze of uncertainty. Chiara, too, bears her soul, acknowledging her role in this unfolding drama due to the impulsive kiss that initiated their entanglement. During their conversation, Chiara cryptically hints that Francois bears a resemblance to someone he's supposed to meet at the station. As the men show up, Chiara hides until they leave. She drives skillfully, managing to make it through the closing parking lot gate just in time. As they continue driving, a peculiar smile crosses Francois' face as he expresses his happiness at seeing Chiara. They arrive at a discreet location, a secret house. Chiara instructs Francois to wait, and he takes the opportunity to examine the car, including the glove compartment, yielding only a hotel receipt. Eventually, they both ascend a seemingly endless staircase in a partially abandoned building. Chiara assures Francois that they are safe in the safe house, and unlikely to be found or approached. Francois admits that he doesn't regret their kiss, expressing his desire for intimacy, but Chiara skillfully evades his advances. As they settle into the well-stocked safe house, Chiara reveals that she only stays there for a short duration. Chiara divulges that her decision to sit across from him on the train was intentional, driven by his resemblance to Anthony. She confesses that she knew exactly what she was doing, luring him into a trap. In a hurtful tone, she insults Francois further by stating that she would never fall in love with someone on a train, particularly not someone who isn't her type. Curious about Chiara's motives, Francois questions her actions, to which she responds by declaring her love for him. He presses further, wondering if her actions are truly worth the risks. Chiara makes a mysterious phone call, possibly to someone like Anthony. Francois strives to adapt to life in the safe house, using the limited entertainment available, such as the TV, to pass the time. Later, Ackerman is spotted in a cafe, engrossed in reading the newspaper. Meanwhile, Francois follows his morning routine, and notices individuals in suits with similar tailoring and variations, prompting him to adopt a mafioso-like appearance with aviators. He returns to the hotel and inquires about Chiara's whereabouts from the lobby staff, hastily leaving just before receiving confirmation. Outside the hotel room, he waits, engrossed in reading a newspaper. Something in the paper catches his attention, leading him to an article and a photo of Lieutenant Driss, reporting that he passed away in his own house. As Chiara steps out of the hotel's entrance, Francois shadows her with the tenacity of a detective on a mission. At a nearby cafe, Chiara pauses, her thoughts momentarily lost in contemplation. Suddenly, as if materializing from thin air, Francois takes a seat at her table, his determination palpable. His inquiry storm begins, a barrage of questions centering on Anthony Zimmer and the elusive hideout. The atmosphere is charged, uncertainty swirling around them. Chiara's bewilderment is evident as she grapples with the unexpected encounter. Francois, undeterred, presses on, a relentless seeker of answers. The line between persistence and intrusion blurs as he delves deeper into his interrogation. The cafe's ambience serves as the backdrop for this intense exchange, punctuated by the clinking of cups and distant chatter. Yet, the situation takes an unsettling turn when Francois oversteps boundaries, his fingers grazing Chiara's cheek, his plea for a kiss tinged with desperation. Chiara recoils, her eyes registering a mix of surprise and discomfort. She retreats, creating a distance that serves as a buffer against his advances, her expression a shield against his intensity. His approach shifts as he resorts to guilt, casting her as an accomplice in Anthony's web of crime by embroiling an innocent bystander like himself. Accusations hang in the air, a cloud of moral ambiguity that looms between them. Chiara, grappling with his accusations and her own emotions, takes a step back, her confusion writ large across her features. An abrupt decision defines the next moments. Chiara flees, her heels echoing against the pavement, a hurried escape from the tangled web of emotions and questions that Francois has woven. She seeks refuge on a bus, her choice of refuge a metaphorical distance from his persistent pursuit. But fate plays a hand as Francois defies the odds, catching up and boarding the same bus. Their journey, once disparate, now converges within the confined space of the vehicle. Money becomes an unexpected barrier, forcing Francois to disembark from the bus prematurely. Undeterred, he navigates the urban landscape with determination, hailing a taxi to continue his pursuit. A simple request is made of the driver: follow the bus, the guise of his wife's presence on board masking his true intentions. The city's rhythm accelerates as they navigate its arteries, the heartbeat of their chase quickening. In an unforeseen twist, the narrative swerves as the taxi's progress is obstructed, thwarted by the orchestrated convergence of other vehicles. Francois' involuntary exit from the taxi propels him into an entirely different vehicle, the abrupt transition mirroring the unpredictability that has become the hallmark of his reality. Francois waits inside the interrogation room until Ackerman enters. He introduces himself, and Francois affirms that he is not Anthony Zimmer. Ackerman acknowledges his belief in Francois' innocence, and proceeds to reveal something that confirms he has known all along, that Francois is not their target. Exiting the interrogation room, Ackerman leads Francois to a locker room adorned with photos. He selects a framed picture and displays it before Francois. Among the official police photographs, Francois identifies a younger version of Ackerman himself. However, upon closer inspection, he also notices a photo of Chiara dressed in a police uniform. Ackerman notes how much Chiara has changed. Meanwhile, Chiara places another call. In a discreet meeting, Ackerman and Chiara converse. Ackerman discusses the idea of putting up a rendezvous sign, hinting at a covert plan. It becomes apparent that Chiara is an undercover agent strategically placed to capture Zimmer. Ackerman acknowledges that Chiara is Zimmer's vulnerability, as she tends to develop feelings for the men she ultimately betrays. As they discuss Francois' current situation, Ackerman assures Chiara of his commitment to protecting Francois. In the car with Ackerman, Francois remarks on the coincidence that they read the same newspaper. Ackerman explains that this is how Anthony Zimmer communicates, using classified ads. Accompanied by two more cars, they head to the rendezvous point at a house. Meanwhile, Chiara readies herself, getting wired for the operation. A truck filled with agents and police officers awaits Zimmer's arrival, using Chiara as bait. As the operation unfolds, the cameras inside the house suddenly malfunction. Nonetheless, the car carrying Chiara arrives. Zimmer exits the vehicle, enters the house, which is under surveillance by the police. Snipers take aim, spotting someone, but Ackerman orders them to hold their fire. Chiara enters the house and retrieves a book, finding everything in disarray. She steps outside, her every move watched by one of the snipers. Chiara leaves the line of sight, and the camera feed from the van remains static. Suddenly, footsteps echo, and Chiara utters Anthony's name. However, it's not Anthony who appears. Instead, an older man emerges. It's the Russian man encountered earlier in the hotel, accompanied by his accomplices, including someone named Naseyev. They wait alongside Chiara, and the tension continues to mount as the various elements of the operation converge. Naseyev taunts Chiara, suggesting that Anthony might be observing them from a distance rather than approaching. Anthony fails to show up to meet her, and his absence becomes evident. In a display of aggression, one of Naseyev's men repeatedly slaps Chiara. An agent questions whether they should intervene to prevent Chiara from being harmed, but Ackerman insists on waiting, convinced that Anthony will eventually make an appearance. Amid the escalating tension, Francois leaves the van and rushes towards the house to rescue Chiara. Inside the house, Anthony arrives, only to find himself trapped by Naseyev's men. He's forcefully pushed to the floor, and Naseyev, convinced that he's Anthony Zimmer, prepares to shoot him. Chiara intervenes, revealing Francois' true identity, but Naseyev remains skeptical, ready to eliminate Francois. In a desperate move to save him, Chiara abandons her cover, uttering Ackerman as a signal. In an instant, Nassayev's life ends in a sudden, fatal manner. Chaos erupts as shots are exchanged between Nassayev's men and the agents. Amid the gunfire, Francois guides Chiara to safety, and they take cover until the sound of shooting subsides. Agents and police officers, accompanied by Ackerman, arrive at the scene. Amidst the commotion, Francois engages Chiara in conversation, offering her tea with milk. Emotionally overwhelmed, Chiara breaks down in tears, recounting how she was stood up by Anthony. She expresses gratitude for Francois' presence during this difficult moment. Francois poses a question, inquiring if Chiara wishes to see Anthony again. Chiara's response is resolute. She wants to apprehend him. She reflects on the mystery of Anthony's whereabouts, pondering where he might be hiding. A pivotal moment arises when Francois discreetly removes Chiara's wires and whispers, "He is here," alluding to the presence of Anthony Zimmer. Chiara, sensing Anthony's new appearance, is overcome with intense emotions and kisses Francois passionately. However, their intimate moment is abruptly interrupted by a policeman, creating an awkward situation. Ackerman inquires about Chiara, leading her to respond. In the midst of the chaos, Chiara urges Francois, who has taken on Anthony's identity, to escape. Yet, Francois, now seemingly Anthony Zimmer, insists on staying with her. Chiara, torn, temporarily leaves him. Francois gains access to his safety deposit box, and his biometric verification confirms his identity. Retrieving documents, he procures information related to his bank accounts before carefully concealing the deposit box once again. In the meantime, Chiara engages in a conversation with Ackerman, inquiring about Francois. Later, Ackerman reviews a notebook which Anthony is believed to have left near the entrance on purpose. Inside the book are a series of bank account numbers accompanied by their corresponding passwords. This unexpected revelation implies that Anthony has chosen to relinquish the ill-gotten money he accumulated. Anthony's transformation is evident, as he embraces his new identity as Francois Tailander, leaving behind his former life as Anthony Zimmer. Notably, Chiara refrains from exposing his true identity any further. A police officer shares with Ackerman that they may never locate Anthony, yet Ackerman senses something amiss as he observes Francois and Chiara departing together in a car, driving away.